Elon Musk was born in 1971 in Pretoria, South Africa. The city was not very big. It was quiet. It had wide streets and warm sunshine. But for Elon, childhood did not always feel warm. His father was an engineer. His mother was a model and dietitian. From the outside, the family looked stable. But inside the home, life was complicated. His parents divorced when he was young. Divorce changed the atmosphere in the house. It created tension. It created silence. Elon was a quiet child. He did not talk much. He liked to sit alone. He liked to read books. He liked to think. Other children played outside. They ran. They laughed loudly. But Elon often stayed inside with a book in his hands. Books were not just entertainment. They were escape. He read science fiction. He read about space. He read about distant planets and future worlds. He imagined rockets flying into the sky. He imagined cities on Mars. Why did he read so much? Because books felt safer than people. School was not easy for him. He was small. He was shy. Some students bullied him. They pushed him. They laughed at him. Once, he was beaten so badly that he had to go to the hospital. Imagine being a young boy. Imagine feeling different. Imagine walking into school every day not knowing if someone will hurt you. Did he want to quit? Did he want to disappear? Maybe. But something inside him was stronger than fear. He did not respond with anger. He responded with imagination. When life felt painful, he closed his eyes and imagined the future. A future where humans could travel between planets. A future where technology could change everything. At the age of 12, he learned how to program on a computer. Computers were not common at that time. They were big and slow. But to Elon, they were powerful tools. He taught himself coding by reading a manual. No teacher. No class. Just curiosity and patience. He created a small video game. It was called Blaster. He sold it for $500. $500 was not a small amount for a young boy. But the money was not the most important part. The important part was this: he created something from nothing. He had an idea. He learned a skill. He built something real. That experience changed him. He understood that imagination can become reality. But life at home was still difficult. After the divorce, Elon chose to live with his father. At first, he thought it would be better. But it was not easy. The relationship was complicated. There were strict rules. There were emotional challenges. Loneliness became familiar. But loneliness also created focus. When you are alone, you have time to think. When you have time to think, you begin to ask bigger questions. Why are we here? Why does the world stay the same? Can it change? These questions stayed in his mind for years. He believed something deeply. He believed that life must have meaning. And for him, meaning was connected to progress. Even as a teenager, he did not dream about being rich. He dreamed about making an impact. He once said that he wanted to work on things that matter. Things that affect the future of humanity. That belief did not come suddenly. It grew slowly during childhood. When he read about space exploration, he felt excitement. When he read about clean energy, he felt urgency. When he read about computers, he felt possibility. He did not see technology as a toy. He saw it as a tool for survival. Growing up in South Africa during that time was not simple. The country had political tension. The future felt uncertain. That uncertainty may have influenced his thinking. He did not want a small future. He wanted a big one. He wanted to go where others were afraid to go. As a teenager, he made a decision. He would leave South Africa. He believed that staying would limit his opportunities. Was it easy to leave home? Was it comfortable to move to a new country? No. But sometimes, when something is important enough, comfort does not matter. This idea would later become one of his famous quotes. When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. As a young boy, he did not know these exact words yet. But he was already living them. He was different. He was quiet. He was bullied. He felt alone. But he did not stop dreaming. He did not stop building. He did not stop believing that the future could be better. And this was only the beginning. When Elon Musk was 17 years old, he made a serious decision. He would leave South Africa. He believed that his future was somewhere else. Leaving home is never easy. It means saying goodbye to familiar streets. It means leaving friends. It means stepping into uncertainty. But Elon was already used to uncertainty. He moved to Canada first. He had relatives there. He believed Canada would be a path to the United States. For him, America represented innovation. It represented technology. It represented space exploration. He did not arrive as a rich young man. He arrived with limited money. He worked small jobs to survive. He cleaned boilers. He worked on farms. He did physical labor. Imagine a young man with big dreams. Now imagine him working long hours in cold conditions. The work was hard. The pay was small. Did he complain? Did he say life was unfair? No. He accepted the struggle as part of the journey. Struggle did not stop his mind from moving forward. He enrolled at Queen's University in Canada. Later, he transferred to the University of Pennsylvania in the United States. He studied physics. He studied economics. These subjects were not random choices. Physics helped him understand how the world works. Economics helped him understand how value works. Even at that age, he was thinking about the future. He did not just want a job. He wanted to change industries. While other students focused on stable careers, Elon focused on impact. He read about the internet. At that time, the internet was new. Many people did not understand it. Some people thought it was just a trend. But Elon saw something different. He saw connection. He saw speed. He saw global communication. When something is important enough, do you wait for permission? Or do you act? He decided to act. After graduation, he was accepted into a graduate program at Stanford University. It was a respected institution. Many people would feel proud. Many people would feel secure. But Elon stayed only 2 days. 2 days. Why would someone leave such a prestigious program? Because the internet was growing fast. He believed that if he waited, he would miss the opportunity. The odds were not clear. There was no guarantee of success. There was no promise of income. But he believed the moment was important. He and his brother started a small company called Zip2. They rented a small office. Sometimes they slept there to save money. They showered at a local gym. They worked day and night. They coded. They fixed problems. They tried to sell their idea to newspapers. Rejection was common. Some investors said no. Some companies ignored them. Some people did not believe in the internet. Was he afraid of failure? Of course he was human. Fear exists in every dream. But fear did not stop him. He continued because the idea mattered to him. Eventually, Zip2 was sold. Elon earned his first major amount of money. Many people in his position would celebrate and relax. He did not. Instead of slowing down, he invested his money into a new company. That company later became PayPal. The risk was even higher. Online payments were not trusted at that time. People were afraid to enter credit card information online. But Elon believed that digital money would change commerce. He faced internal conflicts in the company. He faced disagreements with partners. He was removed from the position of CEO at one point. That must have been painful. Imagine building something with passion and then losing control. Did he quit entrepreneurship? Did he return to a safe job? No. PayPal was later sold to eBay. Again, he earned significant money. At that moment, he had financial security. He could have stopped. But security was not his goal. He looked at bigger problems. Space travel was expensive and controlled by governments. Electric cars were rare and considered unrealistic. Solar energy was slow to grow. These industries looked impossible to change. The odds were not in his favor. But when something is important enough, do the odds decide your actions? He chose to start SpaceX. He chose to invest in Tesla. He chose to support Solar City. People laughed at him. Rockets fail. Cars burn money. Solar companies struggle. He lost millions when early SpaceX rockets exploded. 3 launches failed. The 4th launch was the last chance. If it failed, the company would collapse. Can you imagine standing on a launch pad knowing everything depends on one attempt? The odds were not good. But he did not stop. The 4th launch succeeded. That moment was not just about a rocket. It was about belief. It was about persistence. It was about acting even when failure seems likely. His quote now had real meaning. When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. As a child, he dreamed of space. As a teenager, he left home. As a young man, he left a safe university path. As an entrepreneur, he risked his fortune. Each step followed the same pattern. Not comfort. Not safety. But importance. This was no longer just ambition. It was conviction. And his journey was only beginning. After PayPal was sold, Elon Musk had more money than he had ever imagined as a child. He could have chosen comfort. He could have bought houses, cars, and lived quietly. But comfort was never the center of his life. He believed something stronger than comfort. He believed the future of humanity needed change. He started SpaceX in 2002. At that time, almost nobody believed a private company could build rockets successfully. Rockets were complex machines. They required advanced engineering. Governments controlled most space programs. Many experts doubted him. They said space was too expensive. They said rockets fail too often. They said one man with money cannot change aerospace. But Elon was not trying to impress experts. He was trying to solve a problem. He believed humans must become a multi-planet species. He believed staying only on Earth was dangerous in the long term. Natural disasters, wars, or unknown events could threaten humanity. He asked himself a serious question. If the future of humanity depends on bold action, should fear stop that action? The first Falcon 1 rocket was ready in 2006. The team was small. Resources were limited. Many people worked long hours. The rocket launched. It failed. The rocket did not reach orbit. Failure is heavy when you invest your own money. It is even heavier when people are watching and waiting for you to fail. But Elon did not stop. He prepared for the second launch. It failed again. Another explosion. More money lost. Engineers felt tired. Some investors became nervous. Was he worried? Yes. Anyone would be. But he saw failure as part of progress. He believed that each failure gave information. Information creates improvement. The third launch failed again. 3 failures in a row. Money was almost gone. The company was close to collapse. Imagine being in that position. You have invested nearly all your fortune. Your dream is hanging by a thread. Your employees depend on you. The world expects you to quit. Would you quit? Elon did not. He prepared for a 4th launch. It was the final chance. If it failed, SpaceX would shut down. The team worked carefully. Every detail mattered. The rocket launched. It reached orbit. Success. The room exploded with emotion. Relief. Joy. Tears. That moment saved the company. Shortly after, NASA awarded SpaceX a contract. It was a sign of trust. It was a sign that private space travel had a future. But survival did not mean safety. At the same time, Elon was heavily involved in Tesla. Tesla wanted to change the car industry. Electric vehicles were not popular then. They were seen as weak and slow. Building cars is extremely complicated. Thousands of parts must work perfectly together. Factories must be organized carefully. Supply chains must run smoothly. Tesla struggled with production delays. Costs were higher than expected. Investors were worried again. Then the global financial crisis of 2008 made everything worse. Banks collapsed. Credit became difficult to obtain. Investors pulled back. Tesla was close to bankruptcy. SpaceX was still fragile. 2 companies. Both in danger. Elon faced a difficult decision. Should he protect his remaining money? Should he save only one company? He chose something more dangerous. He invested his remaining funds into both companies. He even borrowed money from friends to cover personal expenses. Why would someone risk everything twice? Because for him, the mission mattered more than security. He believed electric cars were necessary to reduce pollution. He believed rockets were necessary for humanity's survival. Failure would slow progress. And he did not want progress to slow. He worked long hours. He slept in offices. He stayed close to engineers. He asked questions directly. Why is this part failing? How can we reduce this cost? What is slowing production? He did not wait for ideal conditions. He acted inside difficult conditions. Some people criticized him. Some said he was too intense. Some said he was unrealistic. But he continued. Slowly, both companies survived. Tesla secured emergency funding just in time. SpaceX continued launching rockets successfully. The odds were never comfortable. But comfort was not his goal. He believed something simple. If something is important enough, you continue even when numbers say stop. And this belief carried him through the darkest years. After SpaceX survived its early failures and Tesla escaped bankruptcy, many people believed the hardest part was over. But the hardest part had only changed form. Success brings new problems. Tesla had to move from survival to growth. Building one electric car is difficult. Building thousands every week is something else entirely. Factories must work perfectly. Machines must move in rhythm. Workers must trust the system. Supply chains must function without delay. Tesla did not have the long history of traditional car companies. It was building everything from almost nothing. Production delays became serious. Customers waited months for their cars. Investors questioned whether Tesla could deliver. Media reports became negative again. Elon did not stay in a comfortable office. He moved into the factory. He slept on a couch near the production line. He walked through the factory late at night when most people were exhausted. Why would a CEO sleep in a factory? Because he believed that leadership means presence. If something is important enough, you stay close to it. During what he called production hell, Tesla struggled to produce enough Model 3 vehicles. The goal was ambitious. The team pushed hard. But machines broke. Automation failed. Software systems did not work smoothly. There were nights when production numbers were far below target. There were weeks when financial pressure increased again. Was he tired? Yes. Was he discouraged? Probably. But quitting was never the plan. He believed electric cars were not just products. They were part of a larger mission. Climate change was real. Pollution was growing. Fossil fuels were limited. If electric vehicles failed, the transition to clean energy would slow down. And slowing down was not acceptable to him. He pushed engineers to simplify design. He reduced unnecessary parts. He encouraged faster decision-making. He made mistakes too. Some automation systems were too complex. Some decisions created delays. But instead of hiding those mistakes, he corrected them. Step by step, production improved. Then came another major achievement. Tesla vehicles began receiving strong safety ratings. Customers praised their performance. The cars were not just electric. They were fast. They were modern. They were desirable. Public opinion started shifting. Electric cars were no longer strange. They were the future. At the same time, SpaceX continued pushing boundaries. Launching rockets was no longer the only goal. Landing them was. Before SpaceX, rockets were used once and destroyed. That meant every launch required building a new rocket. It was expensive. It limited progress. Elon believed rockets should be reusable, like airplanes. Many experts said this idea was unrealistic. They said rockets cannot land vertically after launch. They said the physics were too difficult. But the team tried. The first landing attempts failed. Rockets crashed into the ocean. Rockets exploded on landing pads. Failure returned again. Imagine watching millions of dollars explode on live video. Would you stop? He did not. Each failed landing gave new data. Engineers studied the mistakes carefully. They adjusted fuel calculations. They refined landing software. They improved control systems. And then, one day, a Falcon 9 rocket descended from the sky and landed upright. The world watched in silence. Then applause. It looked like science fiction. But it was reality. Reusable rockets reduced launch costs dramatically. Space travel became more affordable. Suddenly, missions that were once impossible became possible. Cargo deliveries to space stations increased. Satellite launches expanded. Plans for Mars became serious conversations. But even during success, pressure remained. Media attention followed Elon everywhere. Every tweet was analyzed. Every mistake was amplified. Running multiple companies at once created constant stress. Why continue under such pressure? Because he believes the mission is larger than personal comfort. He often speaks about the future of humanity. He talks about space colonization. He talks about sustainable energy. He talks about artificial intelligence risks. These are not small goals. They are big, uncertain, and difficult. But he believes something deeply. If something is important enough, you must act. Even when failure is possible. Even when criticism is loud. Even when the path is unclear. His journey during this time shows that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is action despite fear. He faced financial risk. He faced technical failure. He faced public criticism. He faced exhaustion. But he continued. And because he continued, industries changed. Electric cars became normal. Reusable rockets became possible. Space travel became cheaper. None of this was guaranteed. The odds were not friendly. But importance was stronger than odds. And that belief shaped the second stage of his life. As Elon Musk's companies became more successful, the world began to see the victories. But behind every victory were years of doubt, laughter, and failure. One of the biggest ideas Elon pushed was reusable rockets. Before SpaceX, rockets were simple in one way. They launched. They delivered their payload. Then they fell into the ocean and were destroyed. It was normal. It was accepted. No one expected rockets to return. Elon asked a question. Why do we throw away rockets? Airplanes do not get destroyed after one flight. Ships are not thrown away after one trip. Why should rockets be different? The idea sounded simple. But the execution was extremely difficult. When SpaceX first announced plans to land rockets vertically, many experts laughed. They said the physics were too hard. They said the rocket would break apart. They said the cost of landing would be greater than building a new rocket. Engineers inside SpaceX were not laughing. They were trying. The first landing attempt ended in failure. The rocket fell into the ocean and exploded. The second attempt failed. The third attempt failed. Video clips spread online. Commentators mocked the company. Headlines questioned Elon's judgment. Some people called the project a waste of money. Imagine spending years building something and watching it explode in front of millions of viewers. How does that feel? Failure in private is painful. Failure in public is heavier. Elon did not hide from the explosions. He shared them. He posted videos of failed landings. Why show failure to the world? Because he believed failure is part of progress. But belief does not remove pressure. SpaceX was still dependent on contracts. Investors were watching. Employees were exhausted. Each explosion meant more cost. Each failure meant more doubt. At Tesla, similar pressure existed. Electric cars were still not fully accepted. Large car companies were releasing critical statements. Some analysts predicted Tesla would collapse. Elon faced criticism from every direction. Was he discouraged? Yes. Was he tired? Absolutely. But something inside him was stronger than embarrassment. He believed the mission mattered. He believed reducing space launch costs was necessary. He believed making humanity multiplanetary was important. He believed reusable rockets were the key. So the team continued testing. Another attempt. Another landing. Another explosion. But something changed slowly. Each failure became smaller. Each landing attempt became more controlled. The rockets began to land closer to the target. Then one day, the Falcon 9 rocket descended from the sky and landed upright on a landing pad. It did not explode. It did not fall. It stood tall. The crowd inside SpaceX erupted in cheers. Some engineers cried. Years of ridicule ended in one moment. But even after the first successful landing, doubt did not disappear. People asked if it could happen again. Was it luck? Was it a rare event? So SpaceX did it again. And again. Reusable rockets became normal. The same rockets flew multiple times. Costs decreased. Customers increased. The laughter stopped. Respect replaced it. But respect came after years of public failure. This pattern repeated in many areas of Elon's life. People laughed at electric cars. They said batteries were too weak. They said charging stations were unrealistic. They said no one would buy them. Tesla struggled with battery fires in early years. Media headlines amplified every issue. Elon faced interviews filled with doubt. Why continue? Because for him, the future of clean energy was important. He did not see rockets as toys. He did not see electric cars as products. He saw them as steps toward survival. When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. This sentence was not spoken during comfort. It was lived during explosions. It was lived during near bankruptcy. It was lived during public criticism. Imagine standing in front of the world after 3 rocket failures. Imagine knowing the next attempt could end everything. Would you stop? He did not. Because for him, importance is stronger than embarrassment. Importance is stronger than laughter. Importance is stronger than doubt. That is the emotional core of his story. And it defines the mature stage of his life. As Elon Musk's companies grew larger and more powerful, the risks did not disappear. In fact, the risks became bigger. When SpaceX began testing larger rockets, the failures returned. Starship, the massive rocket designed for deep space travel, exploded more than once during early tests. The explosions were dramatic. Fire filled the sky. Metal pieces fell to the ground. Cameras recorded every second. People shared the videos online. Some people laughed again. They said Mars was a fantasy. They said reusable rockets were already enough. They said building something this big was unnecessary. Criticism is easy when something fails in public. It is harder to keep going. Inside SpaceX, engineers did not celebrate explosions. They worked through them. They studied what went wrong. They asked difficult questions. Why did the engine fail? Why did the fuel system break? Why did control systems lose stability? Each explosion looked like disaster to outsiders. To engineers, it was data. Data creates learning. Learning creates improvement. Improvement creates progress. But that process is slow. It is stressful. It costs money. During test failures, pressure rises quickly. Investors worry. Employees feel tired. Media headlines become negative. Was Elon embarrassed? Perhaps. Was he frustrated? Certainly. But stopping was never the answer. He believed that becoming a multi-planet species is important for long-term survival. Earth faces risks. Climate change, natural disasters, technological threats. The future is not guaranteed. If the future is not guaranteed, should bold action wait? He believes the answer is no. Even when rockets explode, the mission remains. Even when critics speak loudly, the mission remains. Even when success seems far away, the mission remains. This belief gives strength. Tesla faced similar cycles. As the company expanded globally, factories were built in new countries. Each factory required enormous planning. Each production line had to operate precisely. Delays created tension. Competition increased. Other companies built electric cars. Analysts compared numbers daily. At times, Tesla's stock price fell sharply. Critics returned again. They said growth would slow. They said demand would drop. They said leadership was unstable. But Elon's focus did not center on stock prices. He focused on production. He focused on battery technology. He focused on reducing cost. Because for him, numbers on a screen are temporary. Mission is long-term. He often repeats a central idea. If something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. These words are simple. But they were tested in real moments. When rockets exploded. When factories nearly shut down. When money almost disappeared. When media criticism was constant. Imagine leading a company where failure happens on live video. Imagine knowing millions of people are watching and waiting. Would you choose a smaller dream? Would you choose a safer path? He did not. He continued. Because importance was stronger than embarrassment. Importance was stronger than doubt. Importance was stronger than fear. His story teaches something powerful. The world often rewards visible success. But it rarely sees the invisible endurance behind it. Reusable rockets did not appear from one good idea. They appeared after repeated failure. Electric cars did not become normal overnight. They became normal after years of risk. Space missions did not become cheaper instantly. They became cheaper after explosions and learning. Sometimes people believe success means the odds were good. But in Elon's case, the odds were often against him. What changed the outcome? Persistence. Belief. Action. Action even when numbers looked bad. Action even when public opinion was negative. Action even when comfort was impossible. Looking at his life from childhood to now, we see a pattern. A quiet boy reading science fiction. A teenager leaving his country. A young entrepreneur risking his fortune. A leader standing near failed rockets. A CEO sleeping on factory floors. Each stage carries uncertainty. Each stage carries risk. But each stage also carries decision. The decision to act. The decision to continue. The decision to place importance above comfort. That is the real meaning of his quote. It is not about being fearless. It is about acting while feeling fear. It is not about winning every time. It is about refusing to stop trying. And sometimes, that refusal is enough to change industries. Enough to change transportation. Enough to change space travel. Enough to change how people think about possibility. The odds may not favor you. But importance can still guide you. And when importance guides you, the future can begin to shift. If this story helped you improve your English, subscribe and join our learning journey. Give this video a thumbs up and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new English story.